Stop looking for a job the same way you've always been doing it. Because here's the thing, the rules have changed and nobody sent you the memo. You've been told your whole life, polish that resume, apply online, wait for the call. That's what you're supposed to do, right? Well, that system is broke. And if you're still using it, you're playing by a game that doesn't even exist anymore. And here's what I mean. The traditional job search, the one everyone tells you to follow, has a less than 2% success rate. Less than 2%. So when you're sitting there thinking you're doing something wrong, you're not. The system is broke. The game has changed. And if you want to win in this version, you've got to understand what is different and position yourself accordingly. In other words, you need to create your own lane. So what is different? Well, think about how this used to work. You'd apply for a job, someone would read your resume, and if you looked like a really good fit, they'd call you in for an interview. That was the process. But that's not what's happening anymore. Now, when you hit submit on that application, your resume goes into a system. And it's not the person who's reading it, it's an AI that's scanning for exact keyword matches. Not your experience, not whether you can do the job, keywords. So if your resume doesn't have that exact phrasing they programmed the system to look for, you're out. Wrong font, you're out. Wrong format, you're out. Use the word manage instead of the word lay, you're out. You're rejected before a human ever sees your name. Now, here's where this gets really frustrating. In a Harvard Business School and Accenture study, they surveyed over 2,000 executives in the United States, and 88% of them admitted that qualified, high-skilled candidates are being screened out, not because they can't do the job, but because they don't match the exact criteria the AI is looking for. So think about that. 88% of executives know their system is rejecting good people, and they're still using it. But it's not just happening here in the US. In the UK, 62% of hiring managers say their AI tools rejected qualified candidates. In Japan, international applicants got disqualified because of language nuances and formatting errors. Things that have nothing to do with whether they can do the work. So you could be a perfect fit for the role, but if the AI can't read your resume the way it wants to, then you're done. This is what I mean when I say the system is broke. It's not screening for talent anymore. It's screening for pattern. And if you don't match the pattern, you don't get through. But let's just say you do get through. You beat the AI, you made it past the filter. Now what? Well, now you've got the interview process. And so here are two videos that drive home this point.
Nothing humbles you like going through 4 rounds of interviews for a job, then getting an email rejection where they say they went with a different candidate, and then logging on to LinkedIn and seeing that they reposted the job 20 minutes ago.
Hello.
Hi, thank you so much for joining me today. I am so excited to talk to you and get to know more about you. For our first question, let's circle back. Tell me about a time when, let's circle back. Tell me about a time when, let's circle back. Tell me about a time when,
I think the internet's breaking up or
tell me
something.
about a time when, let's circle back. Tell me about a time when, let's circle back. Tell me
Just
about a time
repeating, you know.
when, let's circle back. Tell me about a
I
time
don't even know what to do.
when, let's about a time when, let's circle back. Tell me about a time when, let's for interview. Thank you so much for answering the questions. I got a lot of great information
I didn't get to answer a question.
and it was really nice to meet. We will be sending you a follow-up email here shortly about the interview and the next steps.
This is where it gets even stranger. Companies have started asking candidates to do what they call spec work, strategy sessions, marketing plans, full presentations on how you solve their actual business problem. And they tell you it so they can assess your fit. But here's what's actually happening. There was a candidate who went through 6 rounds of interviews. 6 rounds. And in those interviews, they had her doing lengthy working sessions where she was presenting her strategic recommendation, her best idea on how to fix their problem. Weeks later, she found out the company implemented everything she suggested, every single thing. And they didn't even hire her. They just took her ideas and moved on. And this isn't some one-off story. This is happening all the time now. Companies are treating the hiring process like free consulting. You show up, you give them your best thinking, they ghost you, and your work, it's already being used. So that was a crazy example, but let me share another one with you. Someone who went through a similar process, sat in a room, and saw that the examples and case studies they provided were being used, and some tips in terms of what you can do to protect yourself against idea theft.
A lot of companies are stealing your ideas and your labor during the interview process. When you are going through rounds and rounds of interviews and they have you doing a project, many times that project is a need in that company real time. You're out here working for free, and then you submit your work for them to review to see if you'd be a good candidate to hire, and then you hear nothing. I implore all of you, if you're going to do such a thing, at minimum, protect your documents, make sure that they are read-only, and put watermarks on it that they cannot read. I just had to remind someone, we were just talking about, because we're both interviewing for new roles, and I had to remind them, hey, make sure you don't send them a PowerPoint. Send them a PDF, because remember what happened to Chi-Chi. Chi-Chi is an engineer that I used to go to school with, and she shared this story. It was her own experience where she did a project. She submitted it to the company that she was interviewing for. She did not get the role. And then 3 months later, when she was at like a society for engineers, she saw her work displayed. It was like a solution based, a new wave, a new idea to attack a particular system. And she's like, this is my work. She looked further. She realized that some of the individuals that were in the round table for her interview stole her work. Please, if they ever ask you to, if you're in an interview and they are asking you to submit your work and we would like to review, submit that in a protected PDF with a watermark, like a faded out watermark in the background. They're going to be pissed. Let them be pissed. If they want it that bad, they can pay you. If your work is that valuable, they can pay you for that work as a consultant, or they can hire you as an employee. Just be very careful, be very wary. Don't go through 3, 4, 5 months of rounds of interviews, do a project, and in the end, you don't get anything, but they get your work, they get your talent, they get your knowledge, they get your skills all for free.
So you're getting rejected by AI. And if you make it past that, you're giving away your ideas for free in interviews that go nowhere. Make it make sense. Now, at this point, you're probably thinking, okay, so the system is broken for me. But what about the company? Are they winning? No, they're not. Because here's what's happening on their side. Right now, organizations are searching for what they call the unicorn candidate. Some with 10 years of experience, 5 different skill sets, willing to work for entry-level pay, and available to start yesterday. That person doesn't exist, but they keep looking anyway. So what happens? The position stays open for months, the hiring process drags on, and the actual work that needs to get done is just sitting there piling up. Nearly 7 in 10 organizations report they can't fill their open roles, and the average time to hire right now is 68 days. That's over 2 months of chaos, confusion, and work stacking up on desks that are already overflowing. They're not looking for the right person, they're looking for a fantasy. And while they're searching for someone who doesn't exist, everything else is falling apart. And while they're searching for their unicorn, here's why so many positions are open in the first place: layoffs. Companies cut headcount, people were let go, and the ones who are left, they're expected to do more with less. Here's what the data shows about the people who stayed. These are the same people dealing with multiple problems at once. 74% say their productivity went down, not up, but down. 77% report seeing more errors and mistakes happening because everyone's stretched too thin. And on top of that, 60% say they're completely burned out. So let's hear from a few people who are currently in this situation, and let's hear their raw emotions as it relates to surviving.
Layoffs, layoffs, layoffs. People are literally getting laid off left from right these days. But you know what people never talk about when it comes to a layoff? The people who get to stay. You know, the ones that didn't get laid off. And I'm bringing this up because mass layoffs traumatize the people who stay too. And no one ever talks about it because the people who get to stay are referred to as lucky or fortunate or blessed to have a job. But behind the scenes, something else is happening too. The team is grieving, productivity drops, trust disappears, and fear completely takes over the workplace. That's when people start wondering and thinking, am I next? Should I be looking for a new job? Is this place even stable anymore? And then on top of all of that, they're expected to stay positive, to take on extra work to make the transition smooth, and especially to stay quiet about their negative opinions on the situation. But the survivors of the layoffs, the ones that got to stay, the ones that kept their positions, they're not okay. They're burned out, they're anxious, they're scared, and they're tired of all of it. And what happens after a few months is that a lot of the people that got to stay end up leaving on their own because they're scared for the next layoff. And none of this means that they're ungrateful because, yes, they got to stay. But that doesn't mean they're happy because they know that at any moment it could happen to them in the same way that it happened to their coworkers. Overall, layoffs are harming everybody involved.
So here's another lesson from the layoff trenches. This is what I do in corporate America for the last 15 years. I've ended up in a lot of reorgs and layoffs. This is like I survived this time. And as a survivor, I want to give all of the other survivors a warning. Yes, survivor's guilt is a thing. Yes, you are going to be very tempted to like jump up and be a team player and fill the gap that was just created by your layoff. Don't work your job description. Be very communicative if there is a gap that you do want to fill, that you're not going to do that gap and your job, but that you want a new job description that shows the new strategic role that you are going to be creating for yourself. Have to let leadership decide how they're going to solve the rest of the problems. If you become the Band-Aid, you will be the Band-Aid forever. And frankly, that's a thankless job. Nobody ever gets promoted because they're doing 3 jobs. Because then if you move, they have to fill 3 jobs.
But it's not just the workers who are struggling. A lot of the senior people are gone too. And when they left, they took everything with them: the institutional knowledge, the processes, the relationships, how to keep things running. Now, here's the problem. Replacing those senior employees, it costs up to 150% of their salary. So those savings companies thought they were getting from the layoff, they're spending more now trying to fix what they broke. So this is what you're walking into. Companies searching for unicorns because they've got burned out workers trying to do too much, and they've lost the senior expertise that knew how to keep things running. They created a mess, and now they can't figure out how to fix it. Here's what you need to understand. You're not powerless in this. Let me tell you about Joseph. His brother set him up, sold him into slavery. He ended up working in Potiphar's household, and he excelled there. Then he was falsely accused and thrown into prison. In prison, he kept excelling. He managed things. And while he was there, he interpreted dreams for 2 prisoners. He asked them to remember him when they got out. And guess what? They forgot. Until Pharaoh had a dream, a problem no one could solve. That's when they remembered Joseph. And here's what mattered. Joseph had been developing his skills in those difficult places, managing Potiphar's household, running the prison. When Pharaoh's dream revealed a famine was coming, a crisis no one knew how to solve, Joseph didn't interpret the dream. He already had a solution. The old system wouldn't work, and a new system was needed, and Joseph was ready. That's what's happening right now. You've been prepared through your own struggles and experiences. The system changed, the old ways don't work anymore, and now you need to understand how this new system works and position yourself accordingly. That's what it means to create your own lane. The organizational deficit I just described, That's the problem they can't solve with the old approach. And you're the one who's been prepared to solve it. So, how do you create your own lane? How do you position yourself to solve a problem they don't know how to fix or can't fix because they're stuck in old ways? First, you've got to understand what pain organizations are experiencing right now. They've burned out workers trying to do too much, they've lost expertise and institutional knowledge, and they're buried under operational chaos. These are real problems that need real solutions. So, what does it take to solve problems like that? The World Economic Forum just put out their Future of Jobs report. And you know what skills organizations say they need most right now? Resilience, leadership, social influence, strategic thinking. These skills show up in different ways for different people. Maybe it's people strategy and leadership development, helping organizations rebuild after they lost their senior expertise. Or maybe it's customer service redesign, listening to what customers need and reorganizing workflows to support them. That's social influence and strategic thinking. Maybe it's problem solving, looking at a chaotic system and knowing how to stabilize it. That's resilient in leadership. The point is this: what are your natural skills? The things you do that feel easy to you, but can solve the pain organizations are dealing with. Because if you have those skills, you're not unemployable. When you lead with what you can solve instead of what the AI is screaming for, you position yourself where you can be seen. Once you know what your skills are, here's the next question: where do you position them? Not where the job positions are, where the pain is. What industries are struggling with leadership gaps right now? What organizations are buried under operational chaos and don't know how to fix it? Where are the companies dealing with burned out teams and lost institutional knowledge? That's where you go. Not as someone begging for a job, as someone who has a solution to a problem they can't solve. You don't show up with a generic resume that sounds like everyone else. You show up with a strategic offering that says, I see what you're missing and I know how to build it. That isn't about getting lucky. It's about alignment. You position your natural skills where they're most valuable. And then you put your offering in front of the right people at the right organization. Listen, what felt like rejection wasn't about you. It was about a system that couldn't see what you offer. But just like Joseph, you've been prepared through everything you've experienced. The system changed, and now you know how to create your own lane, how to position yourself in this new reality. When you do that, you stop waiting for someone to pick you, and you start finding the organizations that need what you can solve. That's how you take control, and that's how you help others do the same. If you found this helpful, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. This is part of my Another Perspective series where I look at what's really going on beneath what we see and why it matters. Stay tuned for the next video because the system didn't just fail you, it failed leadership too. Thanks again for listening. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this current situation in the comments below.